Mr. President, thank you for giving GBNews this opportunity to talk to you and to hear from you. We've spent some time on your trips to the UK recently and had some conversations, but this is the first time we're getting to sit down and talk. And I've spent a little while in America now, and I've been really struck by the sense of positivity here, the can-do attitude. Is really in contrast to the UK and more broadly Europe, actually, which feels like it's in the doldrums at the moment, economically, socially, really struggling.
Right.
And that's been a long-term project, I think. But you've proven that leaders don't just have to sit around writing strongly worded letters. You can actually get stuff done in a short space of time. How have you done it?
Well, if you look, you talk about Europe and other places, but this was a place that was moribund. It was a disaster, the U.S., under the Biden administration. And there was no spirit. Nobody wanted to go into the military. You know, the recruitment was at record lows. Everything that was bad, it just couldn't get, I don't think, much worse outside of a total collapse. And we've turned it around. You know, it's my 10th month. And I think nobody's done what I've done. It's the hottest country in the world right now. The U.S. right now is the hottest country in the world. The King of Saudi Arabia, other leaders, they said, a year ago your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country in the world, so it can be done. I'm so saddened to see what happened in Europe with the immigration. I think above all else the immigration, but the bad taxing policies. When you look at, you know, Europe is not the same place.
No.
I can't say every place, but pretty much almost every place. There are a couple of places, and I won't even get into that because those are the people, the leaders that aren't liked by the other European leaders.
Yeah.
But what's happened is so sad to Europe. And I think probably you have the same problem that we do with the fake news. You know, if you don't get the news out and properly, it's never going to change. But Europe, I love Europe. Hey, I'm originally from
Scotland,
Europe, right?
yeah.
And between Scotland and Germany, right?
Yeah.
A German father and a Scottish mother. And a great mother, by the way, I have to tell you, great father, great mother. So I have a little prejudice toward Europe and those two places, but it's so sad to see what they're doing.
So how have you done it? Is it about your team, your vision, your drive? You know, from day one you were signing executive orders.
Yeah.
The pace of change here is remarkable. I almost don't know what you're going to do for the next few years. You've done so much in such a short space of time.
Well, we have a strong border.
Yeah.
We have a lot of spirit. DEI is dead. It's dead. It's not even talked about anymore. Yeah. You know, like I saw this morning on television, a well-known Democrat congressman fighting with the anchor, somebody like you but not as talented, because you wouldn't have let him get away with it, but fighting with over men playing in women's sports. I said they haven't learned, because we won in a landslide. We won everything. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes, popular vote. We won in every way you could win, in like record numbers. And I see this man fighting with an anchor about men playing in women's sports. Here we go again. About open borders. He wants open borders where people can come in from prisons. I mean, when you look at Europe, where they're coming from some of the worst places on earth, and you're destroying your country. And I've told some of the leaders of Europe, you've got to stop. Your immigration is going to destroy you. If you get people from the wrong people, in our case, we had people coming in from jails, from mental institutions, from the drug dealers, and some of the worst scum, and we're getting them out, and we've got a lot of them out. If you look at some of our cities that we've, you know, sent the military in to correct, Washington, D.C. was very unsafe, and now it's the safest place in the country. It took me 2 months to make it good, less actually, but 2 months to make it really good. Now everyone's having dinners there. We have these beautiful, nice military guys all over the place. And they look good. You know, to me they look good because it means safety. But we took out 1,700 career criminals and criminals from other countries that came in like they come into your country. And Europe has to do something about it. Well, we are doing something. Even Chicago, we have a bad governor and a bad mayor, and we're fighting with them all the time. But crime is down now 40%. And we've just done a little splurge. And crime is down 40%. In Memphis, we're in Memphis right now, Memphis, Tennessee, very, very dangerous, bad place. we've almost got it fixed, and this is after a month, less than a month. What it shows is it can be done. And Washington, D.C. is such a great example because people were afraid to walk outside, and now they're walking down with their children in the middle of the street.
I'm a big fan of the National Guard here.
Right.
I'm pretty much on first name terms with the guys on the corner of my street, and they're so friendly, and you see them putting shopping in the car of old women, and it counters this idea that they're an aggressive presence on the street. They're not. We've got such a crime problem in London, and I wonder whether Sadiq Khan should do something similar.
He's a terrible, terrible mayor. And as an example, you know, I was a high-ranking officer, sort of always, or a president. Even as a civilian, you know, I was a respected person. He treated me very badly. I said, who is that guy? He's a terrible mayor. And look at the crime you have in London. My mother loved London. She loved that city. She'd always talk about, that was a different London than you have today. Today you have people being stabbed in the ass, or worse. But no, it's crazy.
It's true. It's awful.
Crazy.
It is. It feels much safer here.
Your mayor is a disaster. Okay, I can. I don't know him. I don't even know what. If you put him there, I wouldn't even know who he was. I can tell you, he is a disaster. He's a nasty person. And he's letting crime go. You have areas in London, and you have this in Paris too, where the police don't even want to go anywhere near those areas. You have Sharia law, where they don't even want to obey the laws of, you know, your country or France or other countries. And you have much worse conditions than even that. It's crazy what's gone on with Europe. And, you know, I'll do this interview. I hope it's not too controversial because, to be honest with you, it's just fact. It's not like there should be no controversy. And they have to do something. One other thing, energy. Your country has the North Sea. It's one of the greatest energy fields in the world. They make it impossible for anybody to drill environmentally. They make it, and taxation-wise, they want almost 100% of the money that comes out. So you have these great oil companies that can't go there because, and you know, then they say, well, it's been there a long time, it's used. You've got 1,000 years of life there. That's one of the most vibrant, and it's also some of the best oil. You know, it's really, you know, you have good oil, medium oil, but you have some of the best oil. Some of it's so good you almost don't have to refine it. It's so good. You have this huge asset sitting there, and you're destroying your country with windmills all over the place. I mean, I fly over Scotland, and I fly over parts of the UK in helicopter a lot, and I'm looking down, and I see these gorgeous fields being destroyed by windmills. The most expensive energy you can get. It's intermittent, because if it's not windy, you don't even get it. But to put up those things means you lose millions of dollars every time you put up a windmill. You lose millions of dollars because they don't make money, they lose money. You're supposed to make money with energy. You have, boy, do you have an asset. If they would open up the North Sea again, you could open it up in split seconds. Every oil company would want it. Look at Norway as an example. Norway is a very rich country. They have the North Sea too. They say you have the best part of it. Who knows? But Norway's immensely wealthy because of the North Sea, same North Sea as you have. Why don't they do something? Why don't they supply your country? You know, your energy costs are among the highest in the world. It's crazy.
It's got to be because there is this assumption that the climate is warming up because of man, and that we have to have more renewables. And renewables in principle sound like a great idea. Use the sea and the wind.
Beautiful words. A disaster. And you know, when they talk about the climate, the whole thing is a hoax. They used to say it was started by other countries to cause problems, and they used to call it global warming, but that didn't work because it started getting colder. They even called it many years ago global cooling, but those things don't work, so now they call it climate change, because with climate change you can't lose. The whole thing is a hoax. And your country, among others, but your country is one of the worst. You talk about UK, it's one of the worst in the world. They believe this nonsense, this fiction. As an example, China, very smart. They sell the windmills, almost all of them. It used to be Germany and China, now it's mostly China. And yet, if you go around China, you see almost no wind farms. So they make the windmills and they sell it to the suckers, you know, the stupid people. But they don't have them themselves. They use oil and gas, they use coal. But they don't use the wind.
But I think it takes real backbone as a country's leader to stand up in a room like you did in New York with the UN, which was, for me, it was one of the greatest moments. I could watch
Without
that speech.
a teleprompter.
I loved it. It was brilliant.
They took away my teleprompter purposely.
It was a joy to watch because you dropped so many truth bombs on that room of globalists.
I had no script.
It was just
Can you
brilliant.
imagine? The UN took away my teleprompter.
I know.
Just before I got up, I said, I'm being introduced. I say, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United States of America, President Donald Trump, and I'm looking at him saying...
After the escalator had already broken as well on the way up.
The escalator stopped, and it didn't stop like, it stopped. Phew. And I had my wife in front of me. Fortunately, I just grabbed.
Yeah.
But it came to a sudden halt, like you heard the crash.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of the day, and then I got on there. And I'll tell you something that nobody knows. The speakers in the room were off. So the only people that heard me were people either listening to television, which is still your biggest audience, but we had 158 leaders in the room, and unless they were wearing the earphones, you couldn't hear a word that I said. In fact, I went out. I thought I gave a good speech considering the fact I had absolutely, it was terrible.
I loved it because I thought you were relating in that moment to so many people watching at home, and particularly in Great Britain, who were agreeing with what you were saying about the destruction of Europe and the scam of net zero, and yet everybody in that room seems to disagree with you. Is it just that there's a lack of
No,
leaders?
the people in the room didn't disagree. The leaders didn't disagree, but they don't like bringing it up.
This is what I'm saying. Is this the problem, that nobody has the backbone to be the person to put their hand up and say, we know that you don't all believe in this, but you're all going along with it. But why? Why are they going along with it?
Well, in some cases, all right, some countries don't really have a choice. They have, they don't have oil.
Yeah.
The UK has one of the greatest fields anywhere in the world, and you don't use it. I was approached by the oilmen that used to be there, and it's hurt the towns in the surrounding areas. It's hurt everything. But I was approached by the oilmen, and they said, sir, can you help us? We have the greatest oil in the world, and they won't let us use it. They won't let us use. If you had some other country with that kind of, including China. Look, China doesn't have real energy. They have a lot of energy as people. They have a great energy, right? And they're great. But China doesn't have any oil. They have to go get it. And they used to get a lot of it from you. They don't do that anymore because you don't do it. Your whole economy would change, because oil is so much bigger than any other subject in terms of economic wealth and in terms of lifestyle and living.
Yeah. And underpinning the success of a country.
Well, you have beautiful, clean, really incredible oil and gas, and it's sitting there, and it saddens me. I have, in Aberdeen, I have a tremendous project, and I own Turnberry too, and I own, in Ireland, I own Doonbeg, so I have 3 very great projects. And I look and I say, the value that is being wasted in this country, it's so sad. I mean, and you can only say it so much, how much you're gonna, it's not your country. You feel badly saying it, you're telling somebody else what they're doing. You're sitting there with one of the greatest oil fields in the world, and you're not using it. And when Exxon, when these big companies want to use it, they're rebuffed, they're told no. And you're putting up windmills all over. You're killing all the birds, by the way. They're ugly as hell. They make noise. They're very unsafe, and they produce. Every time that thing goes around, it loses money.
You can't recycle them. It's landfill at the end of the day.
Remember this. After 10 years, you have to take them down and put new ones up because they only have a certain life.
Awful.
It's hard to believe. Now,
unfortunately, even though there are so many topics we could talk about, we have to tackle the issue of the BBC and this defamation case. Can I just ask you, how did you feel when you were first shown the footage or told about this edit, which the BBC say is unintentional to depict you in that way? But how do you feel about it?
Do they say it's unintentional? Well, then they're stupid to say that. They wrote me a letter of apology, as you know.
How was it?
But then it's fine, but what is it?
Yeah.
It's fine. They wrote me a nice letter. We apologize. But when you say it's unintentional, I guess if it's unintentional, you don't apologize, right? I made a beautiful statement, and they made it into a not beautiful statement. And now I hear, just before this interview, I was told, somebody said, "Sir, you're not going to believe it. BBC did it again. They found another place, I think at a totally different..."
On Newsnight.
Yeah, totally different place. That they did it again. It's not even believable. I just settled with 60 Minutes in I guess it's based in New York, CBS, because they had Kamala the night or 2 nights before the election. Her answer was so bad, it was election interfering. Okay, that's how bad it was. And they took her answer out, and they gave her a totally different answer using her. At least they used her.
Yeah.
But they took it from 20 minutes or something later in the interview. In other words, they took some other answer to a totally different question. And it was still a lousy answer, but it wasn't election threatening, right?
Yeah.
And we just settled that case. But that's not as bad as what BBC did. BBC actually, as bad as that was, they took her, and her answer was terrible. It was long, horrible, stupid, so stupid. If anybody listening to it would have voted for Trump. Most of them did anyway, fortunately. But what happened is they threw it out. Just threw it out, and they took another one. They asked a question, they put a totally different answer. And through a series of weird events, just like the BBC was how we found out about it, one of their competitors reported it, how they found out about it. You got to give them credit. But in the 60 Minute thing, we found out because they advertised it in a commercial, and they used a little bit of that first answer. And then we found out, but that wasn't on the show. It was a totally different answer. We found out through talent and luck. But BBC, what they did is worse.
And if it wasn't for the Daily Telegraph in the UK shining a light on this story, and then other channels...
You got to hand it to them.
Running with it. And
was that the Daily Telegraph?
It was the Daily Telegraph that initially did...
I assume they're enemies.
The expose.
They are now.
Of the BBC?
Yes.
Well, I think they're part of the establishment media in the UK, and they've been there for many years. They're very
but they were incensed by it. Daily Telegraph.
They were angry, I think, on your behalf of that depiction. How easy was that decision to pursue legal action? You could have maybe picked up the phone to Prime Minister Starmer and just said, "Can you have a word with someone at the BBC?" Or were you quite resolute that this is something...
I don't even know if the BBC is owned by, what percentage is owned, or if any is owned by your government. I don't know.
It's funded predominantly by the British taxpayer, so we have to pay.
Well, the British taxpayer has to have a big problem with it, because it's strange.
And for somebody that's
been a big story over in your country?
A very big story.
It's a big story over here. It's the biggest story over here. Yeah,
the Director General has resigned, the Head of News has resigned over this. You've had the letter from the Chair of the BBC apologising. But how far are you prepared to push it? Because you've invented the phrase fake news. You invented that more than 10 years ago probably now.
It's fake news.
Fake news. So did this feel like a smoking gun when for years you've been frustrated with the depiction of you that isn't accurate?
I think I've proven fake news, because they used to have high approval ratings, the media, and now they have the lowest. I think they're lower than Congress, which is pretty good. So, no, fake news was a great term, except it's not strong enough. I'd like it to be stronger. The word fake is one thing, but this is beyond fake. This is corrupt, what they did. So, no, the lawyers walked in and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this." And they showed, I didn't hear about it, my lawyers walked in and they just said, the White House lawyers, they're government lawyers actually, and they walked in and they said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this." I said, "What is it?" And they show me the one, and then they show me the other. And it's not even close, it's different words. It looks like it's actually the same mouth movement. Who would be able to even find this? Somebody did an amazing job to be able to, but it's a totally different meaning and totally different words. So...
And as somebody that understands television, I always think, when I watch you, I think you have certain different hats you put on. You've got your TV guy, you've got your property developer guy,
a lot of hats,
talking about the ballroom, which I think is brilliant. And then you've got your father hat on, where you've got this amazing family. But in this instance, are you looking at it through your sort of telly guy eyes as well, and thinking, if you'd worked on a show where they'd edited something together like that, it just wouldn't get past the editorial process?
Well, I did say that. That was my first thing. I said, who would do this? I've never heard of this one before. You worry about AI because things like this can happen, with their different geniuses. I mean, you know, you can do things. I've seen things that are incredible. But you can't imagine that BBC did this somewhat crudely, actually.
Yeah.
You know, it was done sort of crudely.
They'd clipped together, hadn't they, two parts of the speech that were nearly an hour apart.
It's incredible.
To depict the idea that you had given this aggressive speech which led to this riot.
And one making you into a bad guy, and the other one was, you know, my statement was a very calming statement. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it, actually. I've been doing this for a long time. I've never seen anything like that. That's the most egregious. I think that was worse than the Kamala thing with CBS and 60 Minutes.
How far will you push it? Because they haven't offered, our understanding is they've offered no money whatsoever. They've apologised in a letter, but they haven't offered you a penny in compensation. There was this figure of $1 billion that you may be pursuing.
I think I have an obligation to do it. Look, I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious. If you don't do it, you don't stop it from happening again with other people. I think you probably have an obligation. I'd like to find out why they did it. You know, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Who thinks like this? And I wonder if they've done it. We'll find this out. You know, the nice part about litigation is we'll find out how many times have they done it to other people. Maybe they did it to me quite a bit. You know, because I've gotten a lot of publicity over there before. You know, I was getting in Aberdeen, which is such a great place. I went through, you know, years of permitting and everything else to build 2 great golf courses, and I did it really as almost art more than anything else. I mean, I do it for the art. I'm lucky I can do that, right? But it's beautiful, and you know, owning Turnberry and having the great Turnberry, which is so beautiful, and so I know your country so well, and the fact that my mother was, you know, my mother was a great fan of the Queen. Anytime the Queen was on, she said, "Excuse me, don't talk. We have to listen to the Queen." She loved the Queen and the royal family, and you know, we were honored just recently by King Charles and the family, the royal family, and they couldn't be nicer. It was great. That was an amazing few days.
The state visit was beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. It was incredible. The
whole thing was, it couldn't have been more beautiful. That room with the long table, right?
It was amazing.
I've never seen a room. I got to build one of them someday.
Talking of Scotland, for instance, average age, life expectancy in the east end of Glasgow now is 57 for men.
Wow.
It's lower than some sub-Saharan African countries, but there's a drug problem, an alcohol problem, a health problem. And
well, you'd think it would be the opposite. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The air is so good. The air is so clean. You know, everything is so good.
But if you were parachuted into Scotland tomorrow to save your ancestral homeland, what would you do? Where would you start?
Well, it's so amazing that when you tell me this, because you would think that you would live forever because it's so beautiful. Now, it becomes less beautiful because of the windmills. It really does. But you would think that they'd have... Now, at the same time, they have a hard life economically. You know, there's not great economics there. You know, Sean Connery was sort of a friend of mine, and he was a great guy. And I used to sometimes call him the king because he was so. But I spent years getting zoning in Aberdeen, in particular. Turnberry was different because it was built, and we've made it incredible, more incredible than it even was, and it's unique. But with Aberdeen, you were starting right from the beginning, and I was having a hard time getting the zoning, and it wasn't like my real business. It was a piece of art, the most beautiful dunes, I think, in the world. And I was into it for maybe 3 or 4 years, and Sean Connery was in Scotland, and he said, "Let the bloody bloke build his bloody golf courses. He's an American. He wants to invest money in Scotland," he said. "In Scotland. Let him build his bloody golf courses." Do you know that after he did that, I got my approvals in like 2 minutes.
And you've just won a record for having the best golf course in the world, I believe.
It just was rated one of the best golf courses in the world. But think of Sean Connery, no longer with us.
Yeah.
But he said, "Let him build his bloody golf." In other words, I'm investing money in Scotland.
Yeah.
And he was right. But he was so respected.
Yeah.
everything, it was crazy. I said, you're the greatest zoning lawyer in the world. My zoning lawyers can't do anything, but you just make one statement. He was great. He was a great character, too. He was a great actor.
It's one of the things I've noticed about being here is this sense of patriotism, which you've revived, this period of renewal. You've even got record numbers of people signing up for the armed forces.
That's right.
They love this country so much, they're volunteering to prepare to die for America. That's what any leader of a country would want. Yeah. In the UK, we've got a resurgence at the moment with people putting Union Jacks and St George's flags around on motorway bridges outside houses, and then councillors are taking them down, and it's become a bit of a battleground because we've got this timidity about who is the British people, who are we, what does it mean to be British? And so how would you define American patriotism, and what can we learn?
Well, the thing I'm most proud of is that 2 years ago, we couldn't get people to join the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. That was mine. We started the Space Force, so I have a pride in it. But you couldn't get anybody to join. Even the police, you couldn't get them to go into the police. You couldn't get them into the fire departments. We have a lot of people, right? And I guess 350. Of course, we never know because they allowed so many in. You know, it's so horrible, but I stopped it. You know, we have the strongest borders anywhere in the world right now. And we had the weakest borders in the world a year ago. So I think that one of the things I'm most proud about today, to get into the military is hard. It's like getting into the best college because everybody wants to be in the military. That took place 1 year. Think of it. 1 year ago, you couldn't get them, and now it's like resurgent. Maybe we'll open up our military even and let more people in. But today it's considered a prestigious job, a wonderful job. Everybody wants to be. You heard the story. We had the best recruitment numbers in the history of our country. And a year ago, we had the worst.
Yeah.
So it can take place fast. But they're proud of the country. I mean, I talk about the country. We have the strongest military in the world. We make the best military equipment. And by the way, we sell a lot to you. And we have a great relationship with your country. But I want your country to do really well. I want your country to do better.
I know. There is a sense that we are struggling with our identity, who we are. Are we the kind of country that looks to the government to give people a handout if they haven't got a job? Are we encouraging people to go back to work?
Well, your energy costs are among the highest in the world.
Yeah.
And yet you're sitting there with the greatest energy field in the world, one of them, one of the top 3 or 4. And you should have the lowest energy, not the highest energy.
How have you done that on the border? Because we watch in the UK, repeatedly illegal migration comes up at the top of people's concerns in Great Britain. And it's not that we're not a generous country, and we've always taken refugees.
I know, you feel badly about it, but you have no choice. You have a country to run.
But no one has any money. And so when you have people have paid into the system, the elderly have paid into the system all their lives, and they're on a waiting list to get a new knee for a year, and yet they see people arriving illegally, being given accommodation, food, you know.
You have to take them out, you have to take them back immediately. Don't forget, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we were having millions of people pour through our borders. You know what we have now for the last 6 months?
Yeah.
0.
It's incredible.
0. So we were very tough at the border. We would take people immediately back, and I had the military as a backup. Because you've seen this thing, we were trying to break down the fences and everything else. And we don't play games with our military. And we won a Supreme Court that was a Supreme Court case where things are based on merit. That means the military too. And a military has to be a certain type. We can all be politically correct and say, you know, everybody should be in the military, everybody should. Well, you have people that are born for things and people that aren't, okay? And that means good and bad. We have an amazing military now. We have people that look like they're supposed to be soldiers, and they don't play games. That's how DC is so strong now. You know, we had thugs, we had gangs, and we had people that were afraid to go and talk to them. Now you have guys that don't even do the talking. They just walk in. It's like unbelievable.
So do you think we should...
And we throw them out, we bring them out, they throw them out, they bring them back to Venezuela, they bring them back to different countries where they came from, and they're told never to come back.
Do you think we could probably do something similar, which is to put the military...
Identical.
...on the coast?
Identical. And you have an advantage because actually, you know, you have so much sea. because sea is sort of a protector. Now,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes they come in by boat, but it's a protection. Yeah, you could do the same thing. You know, Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst, definitely the worst president in the history of our country, but a man who didn't do a good job in any way. But, you know, he said, I can't stop the people from coming in because I need an act of Congress. And I can't get it. He said, you don't need an act of Congress. All you have to do is say, nobody comes into, I didn't get an act of Congress. So I had a very safe border the first time, the first 4 years, but now I have a really safe border. But I didn't have to go to Congress to do that. You're the president. It's a very strong presidency, and you say, stop the people from coming in. And they listen to me, and nobody comes in. I mean, literally nobody, other than if they come in legally. We have a good process for coming in. You have to learn, you have to, you know, you have to show that you can love the country. Yeah, Biden was just a terrible president. You know, what he did with inflation, what he did with other things was that we had the highest inflation in the history of the country. Now we have almost no inflation. But what he did with allowing millions of people to come in. Now the difference is I'm moving them out, I'm getting them out, and we're doing with the worst ones first. We had 11,888 murderers. Think of that, 11,888 murderers. Largely, for the most part, they're gone.
Yeah.
And some of them murdered more than one person, and they're gone. You have the same exact thing. You have people coming in from parts of the world. You better do, you know, if this interview is good for one thing, you better do something about immigration, because it's more important than inflation. You know, inflation you can solve. But when you have people coming into your country, and they're bad people, the wrong people, it doesn't work, and it's not working. If you don't get them out, you're not going to have a country left.
When you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like we all do, what do you worry about? What keeps you awake at night? When you, I mean, I don't think you sleep for a start, because I've seen your schedule and you don't really bother with sleep.
We have plenty of time to sleep later on.
Yeah.
Lots of time. We have infinity. But no, I think that, you know, I had an expression when I first ran, make America great again, right? Very simple expression. I think in political history it's the best ever used, maybe beyond the United States, maybe. I think about that. I just want to make America great again. It's like, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't want to be, I'm sort of conservative, I guess, but that's because policies tend to be like conservative. You know, you want strong borders, you want good education, you want a powerful military, you want, you know, different things.
Yeah.
But the expression really says it all, make America great again. You should have the same expression in your country, make the UK great again. You know, you have so many terms. You have England, you have Britain, you have the UK, you have, but whatever you want to use. You want to make it great again.
But we're not alone in Europe, that leaders of European countries, and particularly the UK, are incredibly squeamish about the suggestion that their people are more important than people coming from other countries. Why?
Well, you don't have that in okay. Look, in the case of Hungary, you have a man named Viktor Orban, who the other leaders hate, but who does a fabulous job. You know how many people he's allowed into his country?
Go on.
0. And he's got no problems. He has taken some Ukrainians, you know, from the war, but basically 0. You know, the Ukrainians, they blend in. He's allowed nobody to come in. You had a couple of, Poland, I think, has done a very good job.
Similar.
Poland's been great, and the man who won the election, who's fantastic, was not expected to even come close. It was one of many people running. And through a friend of his and a friend of mine, a mutual friend, I endorsed him, and he won the election. So it was a pretty big upset. But he's fantastic. He's going to be a great president. But Poland doesn't take people in. There are some countries that just refuse to do it.
Yeah, we're not one of them.
No, you are not one of them.
We are not. You've had a phenomenal success with solving conflicts, and the peace president is one of the names I know that you hear quite a lot. Russia-Ukraine remains intractable and irritating for you, I imagine.
It is.
What might be the key leverage left with Putin?
So I settled 8 wars, and I have 1 to go. And, you know, last week they say, during the last month actually, 25,000 soldiers were killed between the 2 countries. Fairly evenly split. Think of it. 25,000 young, Now they're getting older, by the way, I must tell you. But young soldiers were killed. It would have never happened if I were president. I thought I have a very good relationship with President Putin. I thought that was going to be my easier, an easier one.
Yeah. Because
I solved some of the wars were going, in one case, 32 years, in one case, 36 years. And I got them settled in like 2 days. I'm very proud of that. I just had one where today, I think I settled one today, another one. But we just about exhausted the supply of wars. I didn't know there were so many wars, if you look at it. But even if you look at India and Pakistan, nuclear nations, and they were going at it. They were really going at it. 8 planes were shot down. They were really, and who knows what happens with the powerful nuclear weapons. And I said, look, if you're going to go and fight, I'm not going to make any trade deals with you guys. And I put tariffs and did all sorts of things. And within 48 hours, I got that taken care of. They're good. And that's a big thing. But I did that 8 times. The one I haven't done yet is Russia and Ukraine. It should have never started. It's a bloodbath. It is a terrible bloodbath. There are so many soldiers. Not since the Second World War has anything been like that. It's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen soon. We're putting a lot of pressure on them, with India and the oil, and India is now pulling out, and others are pulling out because as Russia sells oil, they have money to do things.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to get it done, but it's a shame.
Yeah. If I can just bring you back to the BBC, where do you see this going now, President Trump? Do you see this being a long, legal, protracted conflict with the BBC? Would you like to see it tied up quickly?
Well, they've admitted their guilt, but they don't have to admit their guilt. It's on tape. There's nothing to admit. No, I think very shortly we have a statutory period. We've notified them by writing, and I think you have to wait a week. And so that time's coming up, and after that time comes up, we'll sue them. My lawyers say for $1 billion or more, and we'll see how it all works out. But I can't imagine they could do very well in that lawsuit. What they've done is incredible. I sort of have an obligation, not that I want to do it, I have an obligation to do it. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I've understood, nobody understands the press because, I'm the one that explained to people it's fake news. But, and I hate when people say, I understand the press, because they're fools, because nobody really understands. The press doesn't understand itself. But I will say, I think I have an obligation to bring a major lawsuit against the BBC, because what they did is impossible to believe. You would have never even thought that. Even the Kamala thing, to a certain extent, was so bad, but you could see how it could happen.
Yeah. And it's the idea, I suppose, that you're doing it not just for you, because your feeling is, well, if they could misrepresent me in that way, they could misrepresent anybody in that way.
Well, they can be doing it. And one of the things we'll find out during this litigation, through depositions and everything, is how many other times have they done it to your prime minister? Have they done it to Nigel? Have they done it to, the people that are in your country? The answer is probably yes, but we'll be finding out a lot of things over the next few months. And one of the things, your litigation moves a little bit quickly in your country. So I think it's going to go fairly quickly, although I don't know that we bring it there. We probably bring it someplace in the U.S. from our standpoint.
And you've had success with suing media companies before on behalf of you and also Melania as well.
Yeah, that's true. And Melania's had success. No, we've had a lot of success because it's fake news. But I've never had anything so fake as the BBC.
Yeah. You're obviously a really good dad. Your children really like you, which is obvious. And
or love.
Or love you, but everybody loves their parents, but they don't all like their parents.
That's true.
When they're adults. And they clearly have so much respect and warmth towards you. And I often think, watching you, that actually being a good president is a bit like being a good father.
Yeah.
Tough love, clear boundaries, in the interests of the people that you're looking after. Does it ever occur to you how much the role is like being a father, being a president?
I've never thought of it that way. I can't believe I'm getting a question I've never thought of or never been asked before. If you think about it, I love this country, I love the people of the country, but people do say, what do you recommend for growing your children? And I've seen so many children, I've seen so many brilliant children of brilliant people go bad and become tremendous failures. And I find that so much of it's caused by drugs, alcohol, you know, different substances. And I always would say to my kids, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I'd say no cigarettes too. You know, it's not of the same, but it's, if you can avoid it, because if you don't start it, you don't have a longing. I mean, I have friends that long to have a cigarette. Yeah. They quit smoking, but they long, and they see somebody with a cigarette, it's like they're caged lunatics, okay? But even more so with drugs and alcohol. And I would always tell my kids no drugs, because no drugs or alcohol. I said, over the years I've seen really smart parents have really brilliant kids, and the kids are a disaster because they got hooked in drugs. And when you're hooked, it's hard to get off. And if you never start them, like I've never had a drink in my life, and I don't take drugs. Yeah. I have no longing, but people that do, the drugs they don't talk about as much, but when they see, when you have a person that suffered with the alcohol curse, and they're out to dinner and they see, you know, some of your wonderful whiskey or whatever, when they see that coming down the plank, they say, oh man, does that look good? If you never start, it's so easy. Now, I have other problems, you know, I got plenty of problems like everybody else, but it's just not a problem that I have. And I always say no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. Ivanka said to me once, she said, Dad, you're driving me crazy. Stop saying that. I'd say it all the time. Whenever I see him, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. So I think it worked, but who knows? You know, you never know.
And now a grandfather, of course. How much do you enjoy that job?
I do. I have beautiful kids. I have wonderful kids, wonderful grandchildren. I have a good family. Yeah.
Well, lovely to sit down and talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely weekend.
Well, you too, and good luck with oil, energy, and illegal immigration.
Thank you.